Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Frank Cesadet, coming to you live from the capital city of Akwa State. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari promises to rid country of insecurity before leaving. Court grants Atiku Obi's request to inspect election materials. Plus, Turkey's opposition alliance fractures ahead of vote. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us and sincere apologies for bringing you the news behind schedule. We'll begin our recap news with Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, who has said his administration remains committed to winning the war against terrorism and other forms of insecurity, adding that he would stop at nothing to ensure citizens have a new Nigeria free from insecurity before buying out of office. The president spoke at the unveiling of locally produced 700 Ashok Leyland troops carrying vehicles in Abuja. He, however, commended the military's efforts at ensuring peace and stability in the country, promising that he would ensure their labor would not go under-rewarded. In another development, Nigeria's leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, has inaugurated the Maiduguri Emergency Power Project, describing the feat as another testament towards achieving a stable, uninterrupted power supply aimed at improving the economy and lives of Nigerians. The gas plant was constructed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPC) Ltd. to supply 50 megawatts of electricity to Maiduguri and its environs. According to a statement by the presidential spokesperson Garba Shehu, the president said his administration has worked hard to fulfill the promise of tackling the nation's electricity challenges and has succeeded in laying the foundation for a strong, prosperous country through the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan (ERGP). He noted that a key execution priority of the ERGP is ensuring national emergency energy sufficiency for Nigerians. Meanwhile, the president within the week visited the popular Monday market in Maiduguri, Borno State, where fire reportedly gutted over 13,000 shops and destroyed goods worth billions of naira last Sunday. According to a statement by Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity Garba Shehu, Buhari visited the market along with Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State, Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima, members of the Federal Executive Council, and some eminent citizens of the state. On her part, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Farouk, told the president she was still assessing the level of damage. Meanwhile, the state governor Zulum said the market was built in the 1970s, adding that government had provided an immediate support of 1 billion naira to the victims.
As His Highness mentioned, to come and commiserate with you on the fire on the market.
Worked hand in hand with Borno State government to recover, but unfortunately there's nothing to recover. An assessment is ongoing, Your Excellency. We have provided relief support in terms of food items, and I have directed that the assessment should continue, and we are going to also support with building materials in collaboration with the state government.
In addition to this one, Borno State government has provided the immediate humanitarian support of 1 billion naira. Even the 1 billion naira, if they can share even 50,000, I don't think.
On electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has said that supplementary elections will be fixed after the governorship and State House of Assembly elections. This was made known in a statement signed by the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, INEC, Festus Okoye. Okoye said the Commission is aware that in some senatorial district and federal constituencies, declarations and returns were not made. According to him, the Commission is compiling the list of the affected constituencies in which a date for supplementary elections will be fixed after the governorship and state assembly elections. He gave the assurance that the governorship and state assembly elections will hold on March 11 alongside the postponed elections in Enugu and Edo State. Walk with me. Meanwhile, 6 states, namely Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, and Sokoto, have dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court over the conduct, collation, and announcement of the February 25, 2023 Presidential and National Assembly election result. The states want the Supreme Court to declare that the pronouncement of Bola Tinubu, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, as the winner of the February 25 presidential elections be voided by the court. Reports say they argue that the entire result of the presidential election announced by the chairman of INEC at the National Collation Center, Abuja, is in flagrant violation of the provisions of the Electoral Act. According to them, they want a declaration that the non-uploading of the results of each of the 176,974 polling units nationwide in respect of the presidential election and National Assembly elections were not in accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Act. In a related development, the African Bar Association has said that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, was ill-prepared for the 2023 general elections. As monumental as it was, President of the association, Hannibal Owaifo, said this is the statement while disclosing the observations of the Continental Bar on the just concluded polls. According to him, the AFBA, which served as an observer during the presidential and National Assembly elections, would submit a report of its observations to the Independent National Electoral Commission soon. He thanked all Nigerians who took part in the elections, particularly the young people who turned out en masse to perform their civic duties in the hope of securing a better nation. In the meantime, the All Progressives Congress candidate for Aba Federal Constituency, Promise Ihasimo, has rejected the result of the February 25 National Assembly elections in the constituency. Ihasimo announced the rejection in Aba during a press conference. According to the candidate, the All Progressives Congress APC was omitted from the ballot paper for the election, making the result unacceptable. He called for the cancellation of the results, saying that the omission made it impossible for his supporters and APC members to vote for him. Ihasimo, a former leader of the Aba South Local Government Legislative Council, called for a rescheduling of the election. In a related development, the All Progressive Congress has denied reports that the party received about 2 billion naira in financial support from the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike for its presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu prior to the election. Tinubu emerged winner of the presidential election held last Saturday, also won Rivers State ahead of the Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party's Peter Obi. Meanwhile, there were reports that Wike had released about 2 billion naira to enable the APC to organize the presidential campaign in the state and ensure the victory of Tinubu in the state. Recall that a member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Tony Okocha, had told newsmen on Thursday that the party got human and financial support from Wike. Meanwhile, a court of appeal sitting in Abuja has granted the request of People's Democratic Party (PDP) presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar and his Labour Party counterpart Peter Obi's request to inspect the election materials used during last Saturday's presidential poll. Recall that Atiku and Obi approached Presidential Election Court to seek permission for the inspection of election materials used during last Saturday's poll. Atiku and Obi refused to concede defeat in the February 25 presidential elections, vying to recover their mandate in court. The two candidates rebuffed the gestures of consolation made by the president-elect Bola Tinubu, who in his acceptance speech after he was declared the winner of the poll on Wednesday, asked them to support him in the task of building the nation. Meanwhile, Atiku and Obi spoke at separate news conferences in Abuja on Thursday, where the court granted both candidates requests to have access to all the sensitive materials INEC deployed for the presidential election won by the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday. Move from there to the judiciary, where the Supreme Court has ordered that all 200 naira, 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes remain in circulation till December 31st, 2023. The Apex Court also nullified the federal government's naira redesign policy, declaring it as an affront to the 1999 Constitution. Justice Emmanuel Ajim, who read the lead judgment, said that the preliminary objections by the defendants, the Attorney General of the Federation, Bayelsa, and Edo states are dismissed as the court has the jurisdiction to entertain the suit. The court further disclosed that President Muhammadu Buhari in his broadcast admitted that the policy is flawed with a lot of challenges. The Supreme Court noted that the policy has led to some people engaging in trade by barter in a bid to survive. In a related development, Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila has said that the implementation of the cash swap policy of the federal government has been remarkably haphazard and fell short of international standards. The Speaker held the decision of the Supreme Court, which invalidated the deadline for the currency policy introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) and extended it to 31st December 2023. He said the policy deviated from the prior practice of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) without providing any benefits to the Nigerian people or the economy of Nigeria, but of which have suffered significant harm as a result. In a statement he personally signed, the Speaker said the House will exercise its authority to review the actions and inactions, the failures of law and procedure that set the conditions for this profound failure of public policy. Still from the judiciary, the High Court sitting in Abuja has convicted and sentenced a former accountant in the office of the head of service of the Federation, Garaba Abdullahi Tahir, to 21 years in prison for stealing pensions funds totaling about 26.1 million naira. Trial Justice Inyako found the defendant, who was formerly in charge of pension accounts, guilty of a 7-count charge. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) preferred against him. The court said it was satisfied that the anti-graft agency proved its case against the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. Consequently, it sentenced the defendant to 3 years imprisonment on each of the 7 counts. Justice Eko held that the sentence would run concurrently starting from April 3rd. Meanwhile, Justice Adekunle Adeleye of an Ado-Ekiti High Court has discharged and acquitted a 55-year-old university lecturer, Dr. Ayinde Olukayode, of alleged rape. Olukayode, who lectures at the Ekiti State University, EXU, has been standing trial under alleged offense of rape contrary to the provisions of Section 31C of the Child's Rights Law, Cap C7 Laws of Ekiti State 2012. A lecturer who was arraigned on March 7, 2022, had pleaded not guilty to the allegation of raping a 12-year-old girl, names withheld, in August 2020. In his judgment, Adeleye held that the prosecution weaknesses had created doubt in the mind of the court with the discrepancies in the evidence. The judge said the prosecution had failed to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. He therefore discharged and acquitted Olukayode of the offense of rape for insufficient claims. In a separate development, the Niger Delta Development Commission has inaugurated a 16-member budget committee to prepare its 2024 budget through engagement with stakeholders. Addressing members of the committee during the inauguration ceremony at the Commission headquarters in Port Harcourt, the NDTC Managing Director Samuel Obugu said that the committee must first identify the vision of the Commission as an interventionist urgency in order to prioritize the allocation of available resources. Obuku said that the 2024 NDDC budget should strike a balance in funding new projects, ongoing projects, as well as debt financing in order to get the buy-in of stakeholders. Meanwhile, the Lagos State government says Adeniran Whitney died from asphyxia and electrocution. The Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Moyosore Onibanjo, in a statement said an autopsy issued by the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital has revealed the cause of her death to asphyxia and electrocution. Meanwhile, the Directorate of Public Prosecution has been instructed to immediately seek legal advice on the matter. Recall that Whitney, a pupil of Chrisland School in the Opobi Ikeja area of Lagos, died some weeks back, but the cause of her demise uncertain. Away from that, dozens of people have been killed by an explosion that occurred at a pipeline tapping point in Rumekpe community in Mohia local government area of Rivers State. Persons reported that were said to be engaged in the business of illegal refining of stolen crude oil. Executive Director, Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, YESC Nigeria, Fine Face, confirmed the incident through the center's crude oil spill alert system, COSAS. Fine Face said the explosion happened at about 2 a.m. when a driver kicked the ignition of one of the buses loaded with stolen crude oil. According to reports, the bus was being used to transport the siphoned crude oil to the location of the illegal refineries. And still to come in the news, UN agency predicts 50% growth in Africa's e-commerce. Stay with us.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian.
From issues on politics,
hello Nigerians, I remain committed.
Security.
Education, health,
Lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken
every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by gross level. Our governance have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of the news stories. We move now to Africa, where the United States is offering a reward of $5 million for information that will help capture the leader of a rebel group in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has ties to the Islamic State group. The U.S. State Department said under the command of Seka Baluku, the Allied Democratic Forces ADF had killed, maimed, raped, and abducted civilians, including children. Meanwhile, the ADF leader is reportedly from Uganda, where the group first carried out attacks in the 1990s. Recall that in 2021, the U.S. labeled the Democratic Forces a terrorist organization. Meanwhile, top U.S. commander in Africa has downplayed the recent joint naval exercise by Russia, China, and South Africa in the Indian Ocean. General Michael Langley said America offered much more valuable security partnerships to African countries, but would not force them to pick nations to cooperate militarily with. Langley described the joint naval exercise as power projection by Russia and China. Meanwhile, South Africa sent more than 400 troops to the exercise, while Russia sent a battleship armed with hypersonic missiles. A general warned of the growing involvement of Russia's Wagner group in conflict across Africa, saying they were a destabilizing force. Meanwhile, an alleged suicide attempt by a judge in Zambia who is facing corruption accusation has been foiled after he was rescued from a river he is said to have thrown himself into. Wilfred Muma, High Court judge in Western Zambia, is currently facing allegations of transferring a land title involving a Zambia army property in Lusaka to the governing party, which wanted to use it to build its offices. He said he has denied the charges in court, and reports say he was arrested 2 weeks ago, but according to Zambia police spokesperson Danny Ngwele, the judge on Wednesday went missing after sending suicide-like messages to his relatives. Ngwele added that police started investigations leading to the recovery of Muma's official vehicle, which was found abandoned at the Zamzezi Bridge, with keys in the ignition. Still in Africa, traversing 3 capital cities in hours, French President Emmanuel Macron has pursued his African tour aimed at renewing trade ties. In the Angolan capital, Luanda, Macron chaired an economic forum attended by more than 50 French companies and focused on agriculture. According to reports, France has for decades been involved in the petroleum industry in the Portuguese-speaking Southern African country, which is one of the continent's top 2 crude oil producers. Macron's visit offered an opportunity to explore cooperation in other sectors. Macron said the 2 governments penned an agreement to boost Angola's agricultural sector, particularly climate resilience and water security, in addition to help revamp the coffee sector. On the foreign scene, King Charles III will make his first state visit as UK monarch when he travels to France and Germany later this month. The choice of the 2 European nations and close allies is widely seen as an attempt to build post-Brexit bridges and an acknowledgement of the affection the late Queen Elizabeth II had for France. According to reports, the visit will take place from March 26 to March 31st, ahead of the King's coronation on May 6th. According to the palace, the tour will celebrate Britain's relationship with France and Germany, making their shared histories, culture, and value. Still on the foreign scene, Alex Moda, an attorney whose dynastic family has significant legal reach in parts of South Carolina's Low Country for decades, faces sentencing after he was found guilty of murdering his wife and 22-year-old son. The chief judge, jurors, after listening to witnesses for more than a month, took less than 3 hours to convict Moda of 2 counts of murder in the June 2021 killings, as well as 2 counts of proposing possession of weapons during the commission of a violent crime. Recall that mother's wife, Maggie, and younger son, Paul, were found fatally shot on their family's Islandton property on June 7, 2021.
Right there. Common sense case.
And you didn't leave that common sense with you when you came here 6 weeks ago.
The financial day of reckoning was impending. If it was right there, Alec would not have killed the people he loved the most in the world. There's no evidence that he would do that.
Today's verdict proves that no one, no matter who you are in society, is above the law.
And while Cambodia's most prominent opposition leader, Kem Sokha, has been sentenced to 27 years on the house arrest for treason. Sokha, the former leader of the now dissolved Cambodian National Rescue Party, has also been barred from standing or voting in elections. According to reports, he was accused of conspiring with foreign powers to overthrow Prime Minister Hun Sen's government. Elsewhere, a court in Belarus has sentenced Nobel Peace Prize winner Ales Belyatsky to 30 years in prison, a verdict likely to be strongly condemned by the Western human rights groups. Belyatsky was in the dock with 2 allies after they were jailed in the aftermath of historic demonstrations against the disputed 2020 re-election of Belarus's strongman, President Alexander Lukashenko. According to rights group Vyazna, meaning spring in Belarusian, which Belyatsky founded in 1996, they were accused of smuggling cash into Belarus to allegedly fund opposition activities. Vyazna said he had been handed a 30-year sentence, while co-defendants Valentin Stefanovic has given 9 years in prison, and Vladimir Lemskovic was jailed for 7. In another development, Turkey's opposition alliance fractured after one of the leaders refused to endorse a joint candidate against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The cracks emerged a day after the 6 opposition party leaders held a meeting in Ankara to discuss whom to field against Erdogan in the May 14 polls. 5 parties endorsed Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, a bookish former civil servant who heads Turkey's main secular party, as a front-runner in the bid to end Erdogan's rule, but leader of the nationalist IYI party, Meral Akşener, has resisted Kılıçdaroğlu, backing instead Istanbul's popular opposition mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu or Ankara's mayor Mansur Yavaş. In the meantime, Italian prosecutors have begun investigating why rescuers arrived too late to last weekend deadly shipwreck as the Coast Guard brought to safety another boat carrying hundreds of migrants. Prosecutors in the Crompton opened an investigation on Tuesday into what went wrong in the rescue operation of migrants off the southern Californian coast of Italy, as the death toll from the disaster rose to 68, according to recent information from public authorities. There was a 6-hour gap on Saturday night between the moment the boat from Turkey, with some 180 people on board, was ported by the EU border agency Frontex and the start of the rescue operations by Italy's Coast Guard. According to reports, by then the overcrowded boat shattered not far from the shore in a storm, sending the migrants, including many children, into the sea. Separately, the Coast Guard said it had rescued 211 migrants from a fishing boat in distress during the night in bad weather from 15 kilometers off the island of Lampedusa. And also, Iran dismissed as false a claim by the British and US navies that Iranian weapons had been seized from a smuggling boat apparently headed to Yemen. The foreign ministry accused the Western allies of attempting to divert attention from their own arming of a Saudi-led coalition that has waged a devastating campaign against Yemen's Iran-backed rebels since 2015. Recall that on Thursday, the British Embassy in the United Arab Emirates announced that the Royal Navy had seized Iranian-made weapons from a smuggling vessel off the coast of Oman last week. According to a statement by the embassy, the small craft traveling at high speed after dark and international waters was initially spotted by US aerial surveillance. Meanwhile, the weapons retrieved included medium-range ballistic missiles components, as well as Iranian versions of Russia's Kernot anti-tank missiles. Last and 5 others were injured. According to police, the incident happened at Montenegro's Basic Court, a lower judiciary body that handles municipal cases in the capital. Reports say police cordoned off the area movement after the explosion and that there was no visible damage to the outside of the building. Police say an investigation into possible motive behind the blast was ongoing. Following the explosion, court officials have called for greater security at the country's courthouses, saying the issue had long been raised with authorities. Meanwhile, UK lawmakers announced they will question former Prime Minister Boris Johnson over whether he lied about Partygate in a probe that could trigger his removal as a member of parliament. In an interim report released after 8 months of work, Parliament's Privileges Committee said the evidence so far undermined Johnson's pleas of innocence to the House of Commons, described as a summary of the investigation so far heard of Johnson's questioning. It added there is evidence that the House of Commons may have been misled on several occasions. The committee summoned the ex-conservative leader to give public evidence in the week beginning March 20th. Meanwhile, Johnson, who resigned as Prime Minister last summer after Partygate and other scandals, said the report showed he was vindicated and had not committed any contempt of Parliament. And still to come in the news, Flying Eagles qualify for Under-20 African World Cup. Just stay with us.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigeria.
From issues on politics,
hello Nigerians, I remain committed.
Security,
education, health,
lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyekan
every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Glad to know you're still there, and now to the rest of the news stories. In business, the National Bureau of Statistics data have shown that the average domestic airfare paid by passengers has increased by 94.78% in the past 12 months. The development came amid reports of various challenges facing the local aviation industry. In a new report titled Transport Fare Watch January 2023, the NBS said airfares recorded a 0.16% increase when gauged on the month-on-month basis. According to the statistics, the local airfares rose from an average of 74,586 in December 2022 to 74,702 in January 2023. Still in business, the United Nations Economic Commission in Africa, UNECA, says e-commerce in Africa is projected to grow by 50% by 2025. This is disclosed by the Acting Executive Secretary, UNECA, Antonio Pedro, at the opening of the 9th session of the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development in Niamey, Niger. He explained that investing in capacity building would be critical to delivering on the growth of e-commerce in the continent. According to the Acting Executive Secretary, a large-scale infrastructure investment must be accompanied by viable policies and strategies both nationally and regionally, adding that Africa's accelerated transformation will also be fueled by digital technologies. In Cambodia, we move to health, where the Cambodian health authorities have said there was no human-to-human transmission of bird flu in the case of a father and daughter who caught the virus. The 11-year-old girl died last Wednesday, and her father tested positive 2 days later, prompting the World Health Organization (WHO) to voice concern about possible transmission between humans. Reports say one of the worst global outbreaks of avian influenza has been raging since late 2021, with thousands of poultry, quail, wild birds dying in large numbers and infections among some mammals rising. Meanwhile, Cambodia's Communicable Disease Control Department has said that the 49-year-old father, who had no symptoms, had recovered and been discharged from hospital. Humans rarely contract bird flu, but when they do, reports say it is usually from direct contact with infected birds. Meanwhile, stakeholders in the health sector have advocated for the establishment of the Health Development Bank of Nigeria to assist in solving the sector's financial challenge. The stakeholders, which comprise 7 state commissioners of health and the state executive secretaries of primary health care development agencies and the Federal Capital Territory, met the call in Abuja. The call was made at the stakeholders planning and review meeting of health system, strengthening and access to right of health in Nigeria, organized by Center for Social Justice (CSJ). The lead director CSJ, Eze Onyekore, said that the specialized bank was needed to help finance most of the capital projects usually associated with the health sector, noting that most of the equipment and other technological devices used in the health sector were capital intensive. Still in health, the World Health Organization Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Matshidiso Moti, has said that an estimated 135 million people have ear and hearing problems in Africa. Moti also said the numbers are rising, and at the current rate, it's likely that by 2050, there could be over 338 million people affected by ear and hearing issues in Africa. She made this known in a press statement to commemorate the 2023 World Hearing Day. And while World Hearing Day is celebrated every March 3rd to raise awareness of deafness and hearing loss prevention and promote ear and hearing care worldwide. This year's theme is Ear and Hearing Care for All. Let's make it a reality. We move to sports, where the family of Just Fontaine has confirmed that the all-time top scorer in a single World Cup finals with 13 goals has died at age 89. Fontaine achieved the record in the 1958 finals in Sweden, where France reached the semi-finals for the first time in their history. Losing to Pele's Brazil, the finals record goal scorer also won 4 French league titles, 1 with Nice and 3 with the Great Reims side of the post-war era. He played in the Realms team that lost to the Real Madrid of Alfredo Di Stefano, Ferenc Puskás and Raymond Kopa in the 1959 European Cup final. According to reports, Fontaine was forced to retire in 1962 at the age of 28 after he suffered a double leg fracture. Meanwhile, Nigeria's under-20 national team, the Flying Eagles, beat Uganda 1-0 in the quarterfinals of the ongoing under-20 African Cup of Nations in Egypt to book a place in the semi-final of the competition and also qualify for the 2023 FIFA World Cup. The World Cup will take place in Indonesia between May 20th and June 11. An own goal from Uganda defender Ibrahim Juma before the end of the first half saw the Laden Boso-led side emerge winners in a keenly contested tie at the 22,000 capacity Suez Canal Authority Stadium in Ismailia, Egypt. Having recovered from their opening match loss to Senegal, the Laden Boso-led boys were condemned to win against the Hippos of Uganda, who came into the fixture unbeaten. However, the Flying Eagles took control of the game from the kickoff and had a largely possession of the ball and almost opened the scoring just 3 minutes into the encounter. Still in sports, Napoli forward Victor Osimhen has been nominated for Serie A Player of the Month award for February. Osimhen netted 4 times in 4 league outings for the Partenope in the North. The Nigeria internationals scored a goal each in Napoli's win against Spezia, Cremonese and Sassuolo and Empoli. The 24-year-old has hit the net in his last 8 Serie A outings. Meanwhile, Osimhen is currently the top scorer in the Italian top flight with 19 goals from 20 appearances. According to reports, he is nominated alongside his Napoli teammate Quiccia Kvaratskhelia, Juventus winger Angel Di Maria, Lace defender Federico Bacirotto, and Torino midfielder Alexei Marakchuk. On the entertainment scene, Bollywood actor Arshad Wasi and a YouTube influencer Manish Mishra are among dozens who have been banned from participating in India's share market. The market regulator said it made the decision after investigating allegations of price manipulation. It said videos of 4 YouTube channels were used to artificially inflate values of certain shares. According to the regulator, the videos shared false and misleading information about Shareline Broadcast and Satna Broadcast, encouraging investors to buy their shares. Still on entertainment, Nigerian singer and songwriter Loje has finally released his long-anticipated project, the Gangster Romantic EP. The eclectic EP, produced by Anthony Ugu, is a valuable insight into the heart and mind of the rapidly rising Nigerian star, touching on a range of emotive subjects from romance to conflict through a breadth of sounds and influences. The Gangster Romantic, which was released within the week, is a solo run across 7 tracks, assisted by the South African kings of Amapiano, DJ Monforisa and Kebza De Small on the previously released 3rd track, Canada. Still on entertainment, comedian Oluwaseyitan Atletile, popularly known as Sheyilo, has tendered an apology to followers and supporters of opposition parties he offended during his campaign for the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is coming after the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) declared the All Progressives Congress (APC) presidential candidate as the winner of Saturday's election. The comedian, who in a post shared on his Instagram page, expressed his happiness about how people passionate towards their preferred candidates, stated that Nigerians should not develop bitterness and hatred towards one another. Still on entertainment news, tickets for this year's Eurovision Song Contest in Liverpool will go on sale on Tuesday, 7 March. Reports say fans will be able to pay to attend 9 shows, 2 live semi-finals and the grand final, as well as 6 previews doubling up as dress rehearsals. Prices reportedly ranges from £90 to £290 for the live semi-finals and £160 to £380 for the live grand finale. And that's all we have for you this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum Recap News Stories, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Adet. Many thanks for watching and to have a lovely weekend.